We have our next live in-studio guest. Welcome, Shanon Leader.
Hello.
From Elite Escrow.
Yes. Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing today?
Awesome. It's glad to have you back.
Well, thank you.
Back.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yes. So tell us a little bit about Elite Escrow. What do you do, which is kind of obvious, but what do you do and what do you do differently?
Well, we are one of the few independent escrow companies out there, and most people, they don't really deal with escrow that much, and a lot of times when they're going into buying a business, a home, transferring property, etc., it's a confusing experience unless you've done it over and over again. So we try and make the process, number one, as painless as possible. There's a lot of players in a transaction, but being independent, we truly are what escrow should be, a neutral third party. A lot of times when buyers and sellers go into these transactions, they get referrals from their agents, use this company, use that company, and many times those companies are affiliated with the person they hired. So that may not necessarily be a neutral third party. I mean, let's be honest. If they all work for one company, they're not really neutral. So what we do is be the neutral third party. We don't have sides with the buyer or the seller. We go through the paperwork and make sure, all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. And we do that not only for, we say everything from mobile homes to $1 million mansions, but we also do business-to-business transfers, ABC transfers. Someone wants to sell the business but not the building, the bulk sale transfer. We have a lot of that in the Claremont, Kearney Mesa area. So stuff like that. And we do a really good job. We've been doing it since 1971.
Wow.
And we now have 3 branches with probably, well over 100 employees. And it's a mom and mom San Diego business, which is awesome. And it's almost all women employees. So it's a very, it's a really cool company.
Why is it so beneficial that you truly be independent?
Well, I think it's important because that's what escrow needs to be. You need someone who's not on the side of one company or the other. I mean, think about it.
What happens if there is
think
not?
about it. Say you're selling a house and it's a very expensive house. San Diego, for example, say you have a $2 million house. The person representing the seller may, for reasons, want to push that through because they're going to get a big fat commission check. Mm-hmm. And using someone who is on their side necessarily, to say, push it through, that could be an issue. I mean, I don't think that escrow would do that necessarily, but really when you're looking at something that's neutral, you should be neutral. Mm-hmm. I, as a former agent, I know when I worked with my company's in-house escrow, I was treated nicer than when I used someone else's in-house escrow. So being neutral, I think, is important in that regard. And just so that you know that your clients are well protected. Our bond accounts are much higher than most of the in-house because we have different regulations and rules because we're run by the Department of Corporations or overseen by the Department of Corporations. So that makes a big difference. There have been stories in the past when the market got really hot where escrow companies would pop up and then all of a sudden their assets are frozen and the owner disappeared to Mexico.
Oh.
And the person's money is in escrow and it's locked away. And I mean, stuff like that can happen. I mean, it happens very rarely, but it does happen.
It can happen. Protect yourself.
Right.
Use an independent.
For those who don't know, why do you need an escrow company? Besides it being the law to have one, but what do you actually do? In other words, who do you pay off out of the escrow funds and so forth?
Well, we pretty much handle the legal documents involved with paying off the loan, making sure there's no liens, no tax liens or, say, child support liens. There's all kinds of things that can come up in an escrow. We also work in conjunction with title to make sure, the easements and the property lines and all that stuff is all together. So we handle the legal part of it and making sure that everything is, buttoned up tight. You want, when your loan is paid off, you want that recorded and, that taken off your name and put into the next person's name. You want to make sure that's all done correctly. Mm-hmm. And it's important with businesses. A lot of times we have to deal with their inventory and that transfer, or say you have an investment property where there's tenants and deposits, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot that goes into it, and our girls are probably the highest trained escrow officers in the business. Mm-hmm. The owner of our company is on all of the big escrow associations throughout the nation. She works with NAR and CAR, and she just went to Washington, D.C. to speak about the new closing disclosure, which is going to affect everyone starting in October. So our education program is really key at Elite Escrow, and I think it makes our team really talented.
So you try to make sure there's no surprises, shall I say.
There's always surprises, but we try and handle them with a smile and not get too frazzled and get to a good, positive end result.
Yeah. Yep. So you're listening to Close Up on Setting Good Business here on KCBQ, streaming live at AM1170theanswer.com. Give us a tweet at CloseUpSD or find our page on Facebook. You can email me at barry@closeupsandiego.com. We want to hear from you. I'm your host, Barry Waxler, here on the coast, Andrea Kay, Urban Miaris, and our guest is Shanon Leader from Elite Escrow. Shanon, I'd like you to address something here. We talk about independent escrow, and you're the largest, one of the most experienced independent escrow companies. What would be an example of somebody that's not an independent escrow company? Are you talking about the companies that are owned by the title companies, or what would be a? Well,
there's two examples. There are title escrows, title company owned escrows, and then there's also broker owned. So say back in the day, I used to sell for Prudential Real Estate. Well, Prudential had their own escrow company called Pickford. We were encouraged to use that company because that contributes to the company's bottom line.
Right.
So having an independent escrow company, that's someone who it doesn't contribute to the company's bottom line. If the deal doesn't close, yes, it's a bummer, but we move forward and we go on to the next thing. It doesn't hurt what we're going to spend on advertising the next month, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. I think in that situation too, we're able to hire some really good people, and we pay our people well. And in a lot of companies, especially big title companies, a lot of those escrow officers handle a lot of refinance business, which is it's a big job, and a lot of times they get overwhelmed and they don't necessarily have the support staff that we as a smaller company provide. It's just one of the things that we try and do to really make it a better place to work, so we can give people the elite experience.
Well, I agree wholeheartedly. Stop and think about it. And if you're in a real estate transaction and you have one representative for the buy representing both sides of the transaction, how much independence do you have? And if you have an escrow company that's related to the real estate company, how much independence do you have?
And then usually there's a lender that's related, and a title company that's related, and a home warranty that's related. And really the bottom line is, if the deal goes south, it's all intertwined. So I never want to say that there's it's a bad thing to use those services, but being independent is really important, especially when that's what escrow is supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, I like it because when you always want to have a responsible party behind a transaction, and if you have related parties, you're not going to find as much responsibility.
True. And sometimes things, we're very, very strict. It's black and white. There's no gray in our company. I mean, we have really high standards. And sometimes people get annoyed. I have to sign this again. I have to have a live signature. I can't DocuSign, et cetera. It's really for their protection. And that's one of the interesting things to me. People, we have our wires are sent out with a secure email that you have to log in, and you have to jump through a few hoops, but it's for your protection.
Right.
So it's kind of funny to me when someone gets irritated by that, especially in this day and age when things are hacked and there's so much fraud going on. Right. You should be happy when someone says, this is a secure email, you need a password, and you have to go here,
Mm-hmm.
So
what happens if someone from San Diego is buying property out of state? Could you handle the escrow?
It depends on the state. We're mostly a California company, but we do a few other states. Every state is different. Like, I sold my mom's house in Texas. They don't even do escrow. So it was done solely through an attorney and a title. And same thing on the East Coast. So it just depends. I mean, there's a few that we do, but we mostly, cover the state of California, and that keeps us plenty busy.
Everybody carries guns in Texas.
Yes, they do.
So that's an interesting picture you just left there, Urban. So anyway, great. Well, we're starting to run a little bit short on time. Tell our listeners how they find out more about Elite Escrow.
You can go to eliteescrow.com, and we have 3 branches in San Diego to serve you, and you can reach out to us anytime. We're on Facebook as well, and we'd love to help you out.
Great. So, and do most people, when they close escrow, do they come into your office, or is it usually done with a mobile notary?
It depends. I mean, some people like to come in. We do have signing services that'll go to their house. I have an elderly couple in escrow right now, and we have sent our escrow officer to their house. Our girls are more than happy to do that, or we can have a signing service go and sit with them and do all the paperwork. So
great.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you also do notary and all that in-house.
We do it all.
Yes.
And people can request the escrow company.
Yes, and that's
right?
interesting because a lot of buyers and sellers just rely on their agent. But you can, especially as a buyer, you have the majority of the paperwork. And a lot of times buyers get bullied out of their choice because the listing agent says, I'm in control of the whole situation. But really, you have the right. It is your choice. So ask for Elite.
Yep, sounds good. Hey, thanks for being with us. We hope to get you back on a regular basis.
Thank you.
Great. This is Close Up on San Diego Business here on KCBQ, streaming live at AM1170theanswer.com. Send us a tweet at CloseUpSD or just find our page on Facebook. You can always email me at barry@closeupsandiego.com. Let me know what you think. I'm your host, Barry Waxler, and we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.